Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Man Sports Fan Podcast. I'm your host, Phil. With me is Ludacris from Dog Millionaire and Haydo, but I'm going to say Hayden. Unless you meant for the Haydo.
I get called that, so it's quicker to write than Hayden when I'm typing, so that's why I do it.
Like, Haydo. Is that how people do it?
Yep, pretty much. Nailed it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Bro, that's great. Hayden Silvers returns. Very happy you're here again. Gardner is out this week. He is in Maine eating lobster. In our show notes, we have Kenny Mayne, ? Who is Kenny Mayne? Anyone want to tell us?
He's an ESPN sports anchor, correct?
Yes, sir.
He might be one of the best ESPN sports anchors ever.
Yeah, he's
especially the main event
for sure.
The main event, yeah.
Yeah, he's so funny, man. Let's just start. So many good sports happening right now. We got NFL football kind of in full swing. Had some really good college football games. MLB baseball playoffs are starting. It's fall. It's crisp outside. Like, we just feel that, right? EPL is also starting up. People are watching English Premier League soccer. Is this time of the year better than March?
March is pretty special. I don't know if you can take away, just the charm of March Madness. March is my birthday month too, so I think I'm pretty biased there. I'm going to say March is pretty awesome. So
I got to go yes, and you forgot NASCAR playoffs. I just want you to know that. Very important piece there.
Sorry about that.
Disc golf wrapping up their pro tour, so we got some big events coming up. Yeah, just everything's happening. The NBA is coming up. College basketball media day today for the Big Ten. I mean, let's go. Let's just get it all going.
I think this is way better than March. College basketball doesn't really do it for me, and so much stuff happening playoff baseball is incredible. No matter how boring the regular season is, the playoffs in the MLB is electric, and I don't think you can beat it.
I'm just going to ditto all that. I really think it is better. But there's something about fall football, man, that just gets me. So, we've already brought up baseball playoffs that started. Besides the Cubs winning the World Series, which I know all of us felt a pureness out of that, including our bottom right there. What's your all-time favorite MLB playoffs moment? Can you remember? Can you think of it?
Great question. Come back to me. I got one noodling. Just give me a minute. It's marinating here.
I like it.
So for me, it's like one of those "where were you" moments, and to me, it was when the Diamondbacks walked off Mariano Rivera. Luis Gonzalez hits that just blooper over the shortstop's head. Craig Counsell, I believe, is the one who scored the run. But that was just an all-timer. Like, you knew I'll always know where I was when I watched that one. So I won't spoil any of my others. That's probably at the top.
I had that exact play as well, so I'll steer a different way. I will go with, just the Boston Red Sox coming back from 0-4 or down 0-3 in 0-4 to make that miraculous run. That was incredible. And it just so happens both of those were against the Yankees. Everyone loves to see the Yankees lose, especially in, dramatic fashion. So
yeah, I go between. Oh yeah, we'll get to in a second. I go between there's lots of different moments, and sometimes I feel like I blend them together in my head, or they kind of blur together. But for whatever reason, I'll always remember Albert Pujols hitting a 3-run shot off of Brad Lidge. And I think it was a game 6 or game 5 in the NLCS. And for whatever reason, I just remember it because it was he just crushed it. And Brad Lidge was a top closer in the game at that point. And that was at the height of what Pujols, when he was just incredible. So I think that sticks up for me, even if it's the Cardinals, unfortunately, because they were just so dominant in the mid 2000s there.
Yeah,
Brem, what about you?
Incredible to watch.
Yeah, I was gonna save you the pain. I was gonna take the bloody sock of Curt Schilling, and I remember staying up watching the Red Sox down 3-0 to the Yankees and just watching them get on base there. Dave Roberts with a steal and Ortiz knocking him in, and just how they were able to claw their way back. But since Hato said that, I'm going to bring up the pain and misery of Cub fans and talk about Steve Bartman and the Marlins, coming back in that NLCS. There's really something special about that. Josh Beckett, the Marlins team was a lot of fun to watch, and it was just, there's maybe pains me to say this now, but back then there's a lot of joy in watching the Cubs lose. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, it was some really good memories of, that Marlins team was special. They were just a fun team to watch all the way through. So, yeah, just how they came back in that series and what it was. Yeah, 2 games in Chicago, winning on the road. That was pretty incredible.
I'd tread lightly after what happened tonight. I just would, just.
I just want to say
it's a little bit too soon, but
I just want to say absolutely no fault to Bartman.
No,
not his fault.
No, he did nothing.
Not his fault at all.
No,
we all would.
It's actually Moises Alou who made such a big thing of it.
Big stink about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much.
We're still winning the game. Just get the outs, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, Phil, before we move on, I think we need to give so we're recording this podcast just a couple hours, not even after the Brewers choked away Game 3. I feel like we need to give Frem the floor for a minute here. As the resident Brewer fan.
What do you want to say?
I'm trying to drag out bad memories of the Cubs to deflect the pain and sadness that I think, most Brewer fans have right now.
We all cope in different ways.
We all do, yeah. You can bring up the statistics of how often we've been in the playoffs. We can't win a playoff series. But yeah, I think I've become, in the age I am. I can't say my old age, but I feel older now, and just I think I've become a pessimist, with Wisconsin sports quite a bit. You see on this podcast, and we go down 1-0. I was like, okay, whatever. We're just gonna we're going to fall apart right away. We're just going to go, and Churio brings us the magic in Game 2. We find a way to win. And then, just seeing Jake Bowers there in the 7th. And then, South, you're like, just, back to back, you're like, this is it. We got it. And I think it's, it's all about how you lose, right? And Devin Williams, I don't think anyone expects that, just a complete collapse like that in the 9th inning. We walk Lindor, but then you strike out Ventos, and you're like, okay, we got this. But then, Nimmo with the single, and then just terrible. What is it? I think it was 3-1. Alonso, boom. It's like, here we are. It was just how that sequence, I think, is just really raw, I think, for Brewer fans, because it's hits you in the core of like, this is your guy. This isn't like we made a questionable manager decision here. This isn't something where the judgment piece is just like our best, their best, and they were better. And I think that just hurts as a Brewers fan, a small market team. A team that just can't seem to find the right luck, and thought we had some magic maybe bottled up. I think just one last note on, for the Brewer faithful is to minimize this opportunity, right? I don't think we're going to really beat the Phillies in the next round. I didn't have that high of expectations, but I think Milwaukee really thrives off of these playoff memories and these victories. We're not a team that necessarily expects to win a World Series per se all the time, but I think being in the thick of it, we thrive off of that. The culture thrives off of the buzz of what the Brewers bring to the city, and so it hurts. I think a playoff victory and a series victory would have been huge for Milwaukee. So this is going to be a tough one to swallow. I think the optimism here is we're really, really young. So at the beginning of the season, I think there's maybe some momentum with that. But any chance you have, it hurts, and Cubby fans know that well. So,
do you have any? I mean, obviously, who wouldn't bring in the closer in that situation, right? But do you have any sort of, boy, we should have kept Peralta rolling when he just dialed it up?
Yeah, I mean, it was special that he came in the 8th like that. It's one of those magical playoff moments where these, starters will, go on short rest and they'll just come in, right? And I think there's going to be a lot of people that will question that. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone should give Murph any crap, so to speak, about it. I mean, he's one of the best closers in the game, and he just didn't have his stuff tonight. So definitely, I think there's a perspective of bring Freddie out, and if he gets somebody on, then bring in, D Williams. But no, I think it was the right move overall, and it's just not our night, so to speak, not our year. So it's a fair question, Hato. I agree. I think many will sit there and want to play the Monday.
I think it's bullshit. Like that's why you have a closer to come in closing situations. I mean,
Exactly.
you don't make a playoff run without a dominant closer. I agree with the decision wholeheartedly. It's just
people are always looking for somebody to blame. They're always looking for somebody to blame. When it's like we talked about with Pete Alonso, like he's choking up on the bat. He's not even swinging that hard at the ball. He's trying to make contact, to make in essence. Yeah, but he's so strong that and Devin Williams throws it hard enough, I think you just give credit where it's due, honestly.
And you saw it with Diaz. Just a quick little note, like these top end relievers come in with a ton of adrenaline in a playoff moment. And you saw it with Edwin Diaz, their top closer in the game. He's all over the place. Erratic, the ball was flying all over around the zone, and same thing with Williams when he comes in, just erratic. The control wasn't there. And yeah, it's a big moment, and hopefully somebody like that learns from it. And just I think there's many people that will question it, but at the end of the day, I think we made the right move.
I just want to say, I heard a stat. It was Devin Williams' first home run he's given up all year on the Airbender. Just the wrong time. Just
crazy. Gosh, it's crazy. Just did not expect that as I'm watching. I said, they'll get out of it. It's crazy.
I expected the Mets to just have the curse and give it up after the huge swing. I expected them to give it up again and have a huge walk-off for the Brewers, but it just didn't happen. Are you rooting for the Mets now, From?
Not at all. No, I really like the pick of the Padres that we made in here. I think the Padres are a special team. Loved seeing Michael King. Had him on my fantasy team. He was awesome. In game 1 against the Braves. And now with Baltimore out, I'm really, who knows? Royals, Tigers, let's go. Small markets, I'm all for them. I think it'd be fun to watch either of those teams make a run. I don't think people can name a Detroit Tiger hitter. So I just think it's a pretty fun team to root for right now. But I still think the Dodgers have the West. I will root for the Padres, but I still think the Dodgers have it. I'm sorry though.
I think we're all in on Matt Vierling. We're all rooting for that guy. So
good.
Do you know who that is, Hayden? Tigers hitter.
Hell yeah, Javi Baez. He hits for the Tigers.
I don't think he's on the team.
Yeah,
he's not a Tiger
anymore?
He
got DFA'd. I think he got DFA'd.
I think, he got
DFA'd. Talk about a guy who doesn't deserve to win another ring. Javi Baez, my God.
Just have him pinch run. He gets stolen bases.
Right. It should be a trivia question. Can you hit? Can you pick out who is in the starting lineup of the Detroit Tigers?
No.
All right, last question before we get to football. I think Chris is trying to will this into existence, which I somewhat appreciate, actually. Boys, are we starting a fantasy NBA league this year?
Always down. I've done it with Chris back in Whitewater days. Chris and I have some fun memories of a classic trade, which goes down into like some fantasy philosophy. Maybe someday we'll touch on that trade. But yeah, I love whatever fantasy. Usually, the sports. I do fantasy NASCAR, so clearly I can get into anything fantasy wise. But I think fantasy basketball is a kind of fun way to keep up with the NBA. It's a long season, and I think it's pretty easy to tune the NBA out in general during the regular season. So it gives you a reason to stay checked in and know what's going on.
I think the league's been defunct for like 2 years now. It's time to bring it back. I actually watched more NBA last year than I have in a long time, so I'm in. Count me in.
Absolutely not. No, like I'd rather randomly catch a game and not have a dog in the fight than try to pay attention to professional basketball outside of the playoffs.
See, Chris only asked this question because he wants to will it into existence. I mean, otherwise it's not coming out. I almost went away from Chris and went right to hate it because we already know what Chris wants. I am in the middle, a we'll see kind of guy, and it actually is a we'll see. Yeah, I have many children at home. That's all I'll say.
You don't need fantasy basketball in your life, Phil. Don't worry about it.
I do like the NBA though. Chris knows it too. In fact, I
He
got a lot
likes
of
it more
crap
than-
for liking the NBA.
Right. He
In
likes it more than
college.
anyone on this podcast. So, besides
It's-
Gardner.
Yeah,
actually-
he's our Bucks correspondent.
It's actually
So-
pretty simple to set a lineup in fantasy basketball, and you, depending on how deep the league is, you don't actually end up picking up that many guys. So I mean,
It is 82 games though. It's
Yeah.
still, it's like still like baseball in a way in terms of the commitment.
I think what we did
All right,
it was
I'm
like
in.
10 categories, right, Chris? It wasn't that many categories even. So,
10
Yeah.
categories. There's only 5 guys on the field. Court.
it's a course. Well, you know,
Yeah,
What the hell
cap
do
it
you
at-
got? What the hell do you got 10 starters for?
I like that.
I think
I like that
we
Kale
cap
called
it at like 3 moves a week too. Like, yeah,
It's
it's
like it's like
Cool
2
easier.
teams.
Let's do a
There you
Roto NBA league.
yeah.
Just points,
let's do it.
rebounds.
Well, that'd
Sorry.
be an idea if people didn't want to, if they just wanted to.
We
not to
did that
head-to-head.
one year. We did a Roto League.
Yeah,
It was
we
fun.
did. It's fun. I would do it.
Who's
I mean,
who's drafting Bronny James? That's the real question.
I'm not.
Yeah,
His-
hate
his
it.
dad.
Can you draft Tim Tebow? Because I'm drafting him.
Just
Yeah, we
draft
know.
every sports celebrity, actual celebrity. Get Aaron Rodgers on that team.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump to Wisconsin football. We decided not to talk about it last week because we just didn't know what else to say, and we didn't want it to be such a depressing conversation. But alas, we're back to it. The Badgers lose at USC, 38-21. At one point, I think they're up 21-10. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, halftime.
At half. Frem, what are the positive takeaways from the game?
This is going to be pretty short. Yeah, I mean, in the game, we were up 21-10 at one point. I mean, you look at the total time of possession here, 40 minutes to less than 20 minutes on our end. It does not look good on paper. A lot of domination on USC's and a terrible second half for us. I mean, we got the ball in the end zone on the ground a couple times. I think there's some offensive success there overall. But I think my motion here on our pod is to maybe talk about what Badger football needs to do moving forward. I'm going to just sound the alarm. I think we use this when we talk about Badger basketball, that this is a failing season right now. I think we are lucky if we get about 6 wins. But yeah, this season is heading in the wrong direction right now, and so positives are there are not many. I think there are individual efforts there. Whether our O-line, running backs, making some progress, some strides here or there, but backup quarterback with Locke, I think we're just gutting it through, and I don't have a lot of optimism. So I'm probably not the right person to talk about positives right now for Badger football, but some offensive success overall. Not seeing the light here. This is going to be a long, dark road, I think.
Who's got optimism for us? Chris, you are the season ticket holder here. You have stake.
Yeah, you might as well get to the next question.
Just so me. All right, so we're 2-2. The question is, are we going to win enough games to make a 23rd consecutive bowl game? I think we do. I think we get to 6-6. I was looking at the schedule. Next 2 games are 2 very winnable games. It is Purdue and Rutgers. Rutgers is 4-0, and they
They're
beat
good.
Virginia Tech, and they beat Washington, both by 3 points. So they are definitely capable of beating us, but I just think we'll beat them. I don't know. I have a feeling that we'll come to play. I think we'll start to get some continuity. The thing is, against USC, you're at USC. I know USC's not playing their best ball in the first half. You're still up 21-10. So it shows we had some moxie, which I think we needed some of that. And then after that, it gets a little bit tougher. You play Oregon, you play Iowa, you play Penn State. There's one other major game I'm missing here. And then you play Minnesota at the end. In some way, I think we win. I think we win one of those games. That maybe we're not expected to. Maybe we'd be underdogs. Maybe it's Iowa. Maybe it's even Penn State, honestly. I I also think our QB will get better. I think he will play better. Still pretty young. I mean, losing Van Dyke was just such a killer injury. Any team would be reeling after something like that. So I do have hope. I think Fickle is the right guy, actually. I think Phil Longo is not the right offensive coordinator. And I question Tressel as a defensive coordinator. But that's just because we've seen defensive coordinator genius at Wisconsin. So it's like, how can you recreate that? And I don't know. So I think we do make it, but it might be the Pinstripe Bowl, or make up a name of a bowl that sounds like it could be a bowl. That's where we'll go.
Right. Yeah, so Phil, I think you addressed what I wanted to talk about with Fickle. Like, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I mean, I think we're 15, 16 games into his tenure, something like that. He's getting the best recruiting classes we've ever had at Wisconsin. I feel like he's cleaning up a mess that Paul Chryst left. I don't know if this is well documented or not, but when Paul Chryst was in his last year before he got fired midseason, like, he didn't even have a recruiting department. Which makes no sense. Like, they just had no feel for like the future. Like, something just happened there. So he's cleaning up somewhat of a mess. My problem though is the lack of identity. We've talked about it, and I don't know if either coordinator is the right guy, like you said. But I do think Fickle's the man, and it's just going to take till next year now. Like, this year, whatever you get is what you get, and next year, like, that's when the questions will start if we don't start winning.
Do we have any final thoughts? Or should we just move to something a little bit happier?
What happened to the running game? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
I'm gonna take the hot take. I was with you, Phil, before. I thought we could get the 6 wins. I'm looking at the schedule, and now that Rutgers are hot, I think Iowa and Minnesota are going to come for us. No luck with Penn State, Oregon, Nebraska. I give us 2 more wins against Purdue and Northwestern. I think we're a 4-win team. Bold take, but I think we are. I think that's what we are. And I think Fickle will get all the excuses, injured quarterback, and we'll fire a coordinator, the offensive coordinator, like you said. And I think it's a 4-win season. Sad to say.
So 4 wins, but Fickle stays. He doesn't get fired. Is that what you said?
If we kept Chris for as long as we kept Chris, we can't fire Fickle after this short of.
Yeah.
I feel like if you
miss the power running game, guys.
Right. I feel like if you fired Fickle now, like, McIntosh would have to resign. Like, that's his guy, so he's got to stick with him.
Yeah, let's stick with
him. Get McIntosh out, get Ludacris in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring the Man Sports Fan into the AD office in Madison.
I agree.
I like that.
Hey, well, let's move to our Green Bay Packers. The Packers lose at home to the Queens, 31-29. Vikings were up 28-0 at one point. Our punter lets off a glorious punt that the Vikings player misplays. We get it at the 3. Matt LaFleur almost unsportsmanlike conducts us out of a touchdown. But Jordan Love to Jaden Reed makes it 28-7. That was an awesome play. Come back in the game. It's a really exciting finish. But we fall short, 31-29. Frem, why did the Packers get off to such a slow start?
I think the obvious reason should be stated that, Jordan Love didn't look completely himself, looked a little uncomfortable. I think we talked about this, right? Offense in today's NFL relies a lot on timing, and the timing was off there. I think Minnesota came off to a really hot start, got the momentum, put up points early, and I think, there definitely was just a certain energy to the game early on that we weren't there. I mean, 2 missed field goals there. Wicks dropping that crossing route, I think, was really huge early on. So I think there was the points we left on the field and opportunities we just didn't execute with. So even with Love not looking quite himself to start, there were opportunities there. But I think that's a part of it is us finding our rhythm again. I think I said that last time I was worried about Love coming back against such a tough defense. It was really nice to see how that second half played out and how we were able to make it so close in the end. But yeah, it's a tough game to come back into with a really hot Viking team, and you could argue the Vikings are maybe the best team in football right now. With obviously the Kansas City Chiefs are undefeated as well, but if you watch any Kansas City football right now, I'm close friends with Kansas City fans, and they'll even admit like they are not playing at a very high level, even though they're winning games right now. You could argue the Minnesota Vikings are the best team in football right now. So with that said, I think it's a pretty solid effort for bringing back Love after being gone, for a few weeks.
Hayden, what player stood out to you positively, negatively?
I have one for each here. Jaden Reed. I mean, the guy continues to just produce. He's any route he runs, a jet sweep, a crossing route, he could probably burn somebody on the sideline when we need him to. That guy is awesome. He's got great hands. He's quick. He seems to be very knowledgeable of where to go, when to go. And I really like to see that every single week. And on the negative side, it continues to be our field goal kicking is absolutely atrocious. And I don't know what we do, but I don't know if it's Mason Crosby, bring him back. We just need somebody to put the ball between the uprights, and we can't figure that out.
Yeah, Goot strikes hot again on second-round receivers, man. We don't even need to draft somebody in the first round. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. He's so good. He's so quick. His feet are great. His hands are great. He doesn't take big hits. He's awesome. He's so awesome to watch.
I want to be pro Narb Dog by next week.
Well, yeah.
I hope I'm feeling pro Narb Dog.
I hope we don't need to rely on a kicker for the rest of the year.
Gosh, you're going to need him at some point, right? Chris, what do you make of Jordan Love's performance, especially going from first to second half, like he did?
Yeah, I mean, I think Frem nailed it. First half, he actually still looked really hurt. When I watched the first couple drives, I was like, "Ooh, are you sure he should have been suiting up for this game?" Like, I just felt like seemed like potentially an unnecessary risk to take. He started to get dialed in a little bit in the later first half, start of the second half. I actually felt like I was watching shades of Brett Favre a little bit. Like, he was just slinging. He was taking chances down the field. Like, it's kind of like that, I don't care, we're down. Like, we're just going to see what happens. Which actually is kind of a swagger that I like to see from him. Because he went through that long stretch last year where he wasn't throwing picks and he was being very conservative and making good throws. So, yeah, he was rusty. I don't really have any concerns long term. We need him to look 100%. He definitely was not there, but you can tell his confidence got better as the game went on. So, yeah, I thought it was good. I was reminded when Hayden was talking, I think we need to hire the garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomenon.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Mm-hmm. Was that Tony Danza?
Can't remember.
I think it might be Tony Danza.
Yeah, the guy can kick. The guy can kick Culligan cans in the garbage pit better than anybody in the world. So I agree.
We should do a top 5 sports movies of all time.
Yeah, we should.
Or a top 5 sometime soon.
Phil, what are your takeaways on the game as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything that could go wrong in the first half went wrong. And you got to give credit to the Vikings. I mean, they were making some ridiculous plays. I think of the interception where Christian Watson gets hurt. There's like 4 dudes there, and the linebacker somehow ends up with it. And it just felt like the Vikings all that first half were making those kinds of plays. And I think you guys brought up some things. 2 missed field goals, lots of drops. You had one of Love's interceptions is dropped by 2 guys, Musgrave and Dobbs, and then goes right into the cornerback's hands. You're like, okay, this just isn't our game. I mean, you just felt that. And I think part of it too is you go away from the run game, which they were actually running the ball okay. And I felt like they had to kind of go away from it. The thing that most impressed me is I just think past Packer teams being down this much would have stopped playing as hard. We just would have lost by 30. I really believe that. And I even think with some of the Aaron Rodgers teams, we have that. We were down that much. We kind of just gave in. The fact that we didn't, I still think us going 96 yards in 5 plays over a minute 30 just shows what we can do, man. I mean, that's like Mahomes-esque right there. And it wasn't like fluky. It wasn't even like a bad coverage or missed coverage. It was just like Love throwing dimes to guys right where we kind of needed to make plays. So I felt really good. And I mean, again, it's almost like the Eagles game. You play it really not a greatly executed game, lots of stupid penalties or drops or whatever. And then you still have a chance to almost win the game, or at least within a score or a couple points. So I'm really optimistic. And I think like Frem said, like you said, Chris, Love was rusty. And, I think we just overall as a team did not play well that first half. So I'm optimistic, but we got to get healthy. We have a lot of injuries. Got to get healthy. It looks like Jair came back to practice today. Carrington Valentine came back to practice today. Looks like Watson is going to be out less than we thought. Devonta White still has an ankle. So I think if we get healthy, we're going to be fine. And we should definitely be challenging for the division. This is the best division in football, though. So it's going to be pretty good. A pretty good race here to the top. Next week we put the Rams. A couple days here. A 3:25 start there Central Time for y'all. What are the keys heading into the Rams game? Maybe what's one or two keys for each of you guys?
You hit on it, Phil. Establishing the run game again with Malik Willis. I think that was a piece that we really highlighted very well, was getting the ball to Josh Jacobs, establishing that right away. I'd like to see that balance between the run and the pass there. And overall, I think I just want to see a clean game. I don't want to see turnovers. And I think Rams are a team we should be able to beat handedly. I'm not saying we're going to blow them out necessarily. I think Matt Stafford is doing the best he can with his receiving core and getting the ball to people still and playing competitively. But that Rams team is nothing what they used to be. So I would hope we could at least win by double digits. It's a comfortable win. It's not one of these sloppy games. It comes down to the end of the fourth quarter. So I think playing clean football, establishing the run game, and keeping a consistent lead throughout the game. Those are all things I'd be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing the Rams at a good time. Obviously, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua out. To me, the key is just slowing down Kyron Williams. Like if we can shut him down early in the game and force them to throw the ball more. I mean, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, like they just don't have a lot of weapons that can really hurt us over the course of a game. So if we don't let Kyron get into a rhythm, I think we can control the game. We can slow it down, kind of like we did when we had Malik at quarterback, and just control the play clock. And so, to me, that's the biggest key. If we don't let them get comfortable, we get a few stops early. I think we can take control.
Is this game at home?
LA.
It's in LA. I think this is a game where if we win the coin toss, we take the ball first, and we go down and we give our entire team a confidence boost, and we score on the first drive, and we take the lead early. And I want to piggyback on Fremming here that we do win handily. I think we should. I don't know if we will, but I like to be optimistic that we will take care of business here. But I think with Jair being back on the defensive end and them being down in the wide receiver, this is kind of a good game for us to have a nice bounce back and kind of shut them down on the defensive side and kind of show our strong suit in the run and let Josh Jacobs flourish here a little bit and also get Jaden Reed the ball. And I think it should be a pretty comfortable win, but in the NFL, that's not a thing. So let's just hope that we can just control the game as a whole.
Yeah, I'm just hoping we get pressure on Stafford. You want to make him uncomfortable and not let him get in the rhythm as easily. I mean, Rashawn Gary's really not played that well. He's been fairly quiet, I think even disappearing in games. So I think getting him back on track is huge. And maybe it's him playing him inside on passing down sometimes and trying to the interior of their line, just like the Vikings, is not as good as their tackles. So who thinks the Packers win? Just raise your hand. That's all of us. So have the Packers winning. Should be a good game. And every NFL game is tough, man. Should be a good game. Let's go to some divisions recap here. Just talk about the NFL as a whole a little bit. What we did here is we're going to split the conferences for two of us for each, or two conferences for each of us, I should say, to talk about who's really in the driver's seat to win each of those divisions, and then who's been a disappointment in that division, and then really what is a storyline to follow within that division. So driver's seat, disappointment, and the storyline to follow. So, Friend, we'll start with you. You have the NFC and AFC West.
Okay. You want me to go driver's seat, go all three of those right away?
Yeah, I think you talk about the division as a whole, each division as a whole.
Yeah, so driver's seat, I will say NFC West. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not going to back down on them. I know Seattle's started off hot, but I think we all saw on Monday Night Football that they have issues still, and defensively I think they might be reeling after this last game here against Detroit. So I'm going to give the driver's seat to San Fran. I think the clear disappointment in the NFC West is going to be the LA Rams, just due to all their injuries there. And then storyline to follow, I would say, is what's going on in Arizona. This is a franchise that continues to just have drama and headlines, and you're just always wondering what the culture is going on there. Game one, didn't get the ball at all to Marvin Harrison Jr., and then obviously now they've got him the ball quite a bit. A lot of interesting headlines come out about Kyler Murray, his motivation, where they're going. So I think the Arizona Cardinals are a really interesting team to follow. They got blown out against the Washington Commanders recently. If this team starts to plummet, I do wonder what they do with Kyler, where their future goes. Do they bench Kyler during the season at some point? Do they try to trade him or plan to trade him at some point in the offseason? I wonder where this team goes. They do not seem like they have a steady culture and foundation there. So they're really curious to see what the Arizona Cardinals do, especially if this team does not win football games. AFC West, there's absolutely no doubt the Kansas City Chiefs are the driver of that division. They are the driver. They're way down the road, well-oiled machine. Like in NASCAR, they're just lapping people. I think there's some excitement in this division with other teams, but the Kansas City Chiefs are, by and large, way ahead of everyone else. The disappointment, it's an interesting one, because I think you could probably argue that between Las Vegas and LA and then Denver, that any of them could be a disappointment. I think it's going to end up being Las Vegas. I think trying to do some pretty interesting things there, but I think now with the headlines of Devontae Adams being traded, I think this team's going to race to the bottom pretty quickly, probably be drafting in the top 3 come next NFL draft in Green Bay, which will be exciting. This team is going to be bad, I think, from a record standpoint. Even though they're trying to build a good culture there, and I think their head coach has the right attitude, etc. And then storyline to follow there, I think it's still going to be about KC. I think even with what Harbaugh is doing, and even with what Bo Nix has, I think it's going to be a lot of eyes on KC. Can they repeat? Right, that's what we want to know. Is can this team be the juggernaut, be the dynasty that we think they are? And so it's a team that keeps winning games, even though it's not pretty. You take away their top receivers, Rashee Rice might be Rashi. I can't get names right, but anyways, Rice is going to be out here for however long, and this is just it's a very interesting franchise. You have Travis Kelce not playing the best football right now, and yet Patrick Mahomes statistically is not playing well right now, and yet they keep winning football games. So the culture Andy Reid has built there, and kind of the machine that they have going right now, it'd be interesting if it can be stopped.
All right, to you, Hayden, the NFC and AFC North.
I think you're muted, Hayden.
Just let him go.
I was only muted that whole time. Don't worry, I appreciate it. I'm just going to start by saying NFC North, I think one of the toughest divisions in football. I'm just going to lead with that right now. Outside of the Bears, I still think that they are not anywhere close to anything. Pivoting back to the AFC North, this might be one of the potentially the second best division in football. I mean, with the records that you show right now, and with the Bengals being as bad as they are, but everyone knows how good they are, I think that's a super interesting division that they got going on right now. I mean, as it stands, obviously I do see the Ravens as the best team in that division. I do see them winning that division. I see Pittsburgh having a winning record, but giving the number 2 spot up to the Bengals on a miraculous comeback in the rest of the season here. I think Joe Burrows can figure it out. I think that Jamar Chase is never going to not be good. T. Higgins back is huge. I think they make a big splash, and they either they catch the Ravens somehow, or I still think they get into the playoffs, and I think that they make a decent bit of noise in the playoffs, just being with the roster that they have. Their defense needs help tremendously, but I think they're more complete, and I don't know if sound is the right word, but I don't think Pittsburgh is quite there all the way to make it competitive when it counts, to where I think that they can allow the Bengals to creep back in. The NFC North, I kind of see the same way. I mean, the Bears are gone. They're done. Whatever. They might not be, and I could eat those words. That's fine. But I don't see them making the playoffs. I see the Packers making a wild card. I don't see them winning the division, but I could potentially see the Vikings falling apart and getting the Packers in there late in the year, which I'm incredibly optimistic and a homer on that one. So will be, but I do think that Detroit is far and beyond, I mean, top 3 team in the entire NFL, and I see them going a long ways without really any trouble. What was the next part of this? Sorry.
You're good. Has there been a disappointment, or is there a storyline to follow?
I think the storyline is the Bengals getting into the playoffs and making some noise out of those 2 divisions. I mean, I think that would be incredible, and I love Joe Burrow. I think he's a damn good football player, and they have way too many weapons not to make some noise going forward in the season here. So,
Yeah, sorry. You go from.
I just had a moment there where Hayden was back in high school and Bill's a teacher, and Hayden's doing.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. Don't worry. Just keep going, Hayden. Just keep going.
Hayden, can you not speak? Actually, I'm trying to say something.
Yeah, quit looking at your notes. God damn it.
Seriously. The thought I have with the Lions, I think if they're at home through the playoffs, they make it to the Super Bowl. They feel different at home than away.
Yeah.
And it feels like they can also get away with more at home. I mean, they can just play so physical. If you watch that game against the Seahawks, man, they play a different breed of football. It feels like in Detroit.
That was the best football game of the year by far.
Yeah, that was awesome. Chris, the NFC and the AFC East.
All right, so let's start with the AFC East. I do think Buffalo is in the driver's seat. I think we all, maybe not you, Phil, but I think most of us on this overreacted a little bit with their lack of moves in the offseason. Like, who are they going to throw to? What are their weapons? But at the end of the day, Josh Allen is a stud, and he can get the ball to whoever he needs to. Keon Coleman starting to make some plays. Dalton Kincaid's getting more involved after a slow couple weeks. They're going to be just fine offensively, and I do think they're in the driver's seat. They do play at the Jets next Monday night, so that'll be a big game in terms of like the long-term effects of the division. Biggest disappointment is probably Miami, but it's really just because Tua got hurt. They literally can't function as an offense without him. It's just hard to watch. So hopefully he's able to come back. I really don't know what's going to happen with him, which is a storyline in a way. But to me, the biggest storyline is like, who are the Jets? Are the Jets a playoff team? Should we take them seriously, or are they a team that's going to collapse and essentially like finish, 7-10? Robert Saleh seems like a very mid coach. It's just really hard to say. Garrett Wilson hasn't lived up to the hype. Breece Hall has not been explosive. Braylon Allen has looked potentially better than him. I just don't know like what the ceiling of the Jets is. Right now, I'd probably say they're out of the playoffs if I had to make that prediction. In terms of the NFC East, I love this division every year. What is the stat? They've had a new division winner the last like 18 years, like without a repeat winner. Right now, Washington's in the lead, but I'll put Dallas in the driver's seat because I do think offensively they're connected. They have guys healthy, CeeDee Lamb, like all that stuff's behind them. They have the most talent. It's just a matter of like what team shows up week to week. Biggest disappointment. I don't know if there is one yet. I mean, I don't think we expected the Giants to be good. And everyone else is kind of hanging in there. Philly, I'm not sure on Philly. Jalen Hurts looks very average. I don't know if maybe this is my hot take. I'm not sure if he's a franchise quarterback. I'd be curious to see if he's the starting quarterback in Philly in a couple of years. But the storyline to me is Jaden Daniels. It's Washington, man. He's got an 82% completion rate through 4 weeks of the season. He is balling. He looks like he should have been the number one pick in the draft. And he's making everyone better around him. Like, the storyline is, can Washington win that division? Like I said, they're 3-1, and they have a quarterback that might be the best in the division. So it's going to be kind of interesting to follow the NFC East.
He just seems to make every right decision, Jaden Daniels. That is what's impressive to me. Like even if it's running, he just gets the 4 or 5 yards to get the first down. Yeah, it's impressive.
Did you see the clip from the Giants Hard Knocks where the GM asked his son who they should take, who his top 4 picks were to take? And he picked Jaden Daniels as number 1, and then he goes, well, he's not going to be around, so who would you take? And then he said Malik Neighbors, and that's who they took. It's just like that's pretty cool. It was a cool clip.
And the kid goes, yeah, the girls are all just going to pick JJ McCarthy because he's the best looking.
Because he's good looking.
It's fantastic.
That's awesome. I have the privilege of the NFC South and AFC South, which it just feels like it's so boring. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's like these teams have been irrelevant the last 5 years, it feels like. Let's start the NFC South. Right now it's tied in the division top between the Buccaneers and the Falcons, both 3-2. I think the driver's seat is the Buccaneers. I think just because of the familiarity with Baker and with Todd Bowles and that defense. I didn't see the game tonight. I got the sense from listening on the radio, watching the play-by-play a little bit, that the Buccaneers were the better team for most of the game. The Falcons made some plays late to win it, to kind of steal it. The disappointment to me is Bryce Young. I would say the Panthers as a whole, but I don't think anybody expected the Panthers to be a playoff team this year. Maybe 5, maybe 6 wins. They just wanted to see if Bryce Young could develop. Bryce Young is benched for the Red Rocket, and the Red Rocket is doing well, and the team looks a lot better. Just makes you think, man, you should be sitting these QBs pretty often, even first-round ones. I know that's not the vogue thing to do. Gosh, it just feels like for some of them it's way too much, and looks like, for Bryce Young, just the confidence is shot. So it'd be interesting to see how his career kind of ends up, if he stays with the Panthers or goes somewhere different. To me, the storyline of that division is, can the Saints keep up? Right? They started out really hot, 2-0. Last week, week 3, they lost to the Eagles at home in a really close game, a game they could have won. They really could be 3-1 right now. And then last week, I'm blanking. I'm forgetting who they lost to. Can anybody remind me?
Falcons. Close game, too.
Oh, yeah, the Falcons. That's right. So an in-division loss. To me, it's just an interesting team in that, their defense is pretty good. Derek Carr is a good QB, looks really good in some games, pretty average to below average in others. They have some weapons, Alvin Kamara, Olave, that's Frem's favorite. Rashid Shaheed, did I say that right?
You did.
That was awesome. But the Saints have some weapons, so I'm just curious if they can keep up. They are at Kansas City this weekend for Monday night. Like you guys have been talking about, it feels like Kansas City could be beat. Haven't been playing that well. I'd be curious if the Saints really come out and play with their heads on fire a little bit, knowing that they're going to have to keep up with these top 2. The other one, the AFC South, right now, it just looks like Houston is the best team. They have the best quarterback in the division, probably the best head coach in the division, best overall team, offensive line is particular in the division. Stephon Diggs has worked out there. Nico Collins is a star. The disappointment is by far Jacksonville, who are 0-4. I think people thought they could be a playoff team this year. They could win 9-10 games. And they are just not good. They're not good. They did have some life last week. Made the game close, but lost again. So they're 0-4. And I think the storyline is Trevor Lawrence a franchise QB? Here's the thing. I think he gets a pass from any criticism. It's very strange, or he's gotten a lot of pass. Not a lot of people talk about how average Trevor Lawrence has been. Part of it, I think, is college career. Part of it is, I think, his long hair, which Hayden is kind of emulating right now.
Yeah, you watch your mouth when you're talking about long hair.
I no disrespect. And I also think that he just is in a city that in a division that is not talked about nationally. But if you look at his stats, it's pretty average. And he was supposed to be kind of the next generational talent after Luck. And it has not panned out that way. So to me, it'll be interesting. I think he gets a pass this year probably. Like Doug Peterson will be the one blamed. Doug Peterson will probably get fired, assuming they don't make the playoffs. And then I think he has that next year where is he the guy? They just paid him, so he's going to be there. So I guess he has to be the guy. But is he just a middle of the road to maybe slightly above average quarterback, which is, in the 13 to 18 spot? But that doesn't usually win you a ring in the NFL. He had the one big comeback in a playoff game that I think people remember. And that's why I think also they don't talk about him that much. But that to me is the storyline as we move forward here. Hey, that's a pretty good recap of the NFL. You guys have any last thoughts on anything said here?
Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out our partners from Storyline for that segment. We have a promo read. I don't know if you want to do it, Phil, or I can. Ever wish you could peek behind the curtain of your next big sports event? Introducing Storylines, the pioneers in scripting the next big moments in professional sports. From last-minute game winners to stunning upsets, we craft captivating narratives that keep the fans on the edge of their seats. Want to stay ahead of the game? Check out Storylines. Experience the story, not just the game.
Storylines has been so good to us. I'm just so thankful for them. Chris said that was really good.
It's our first partner.
Reading ads is tough.
It's hard.
It's not an easy thing because you got that script in front of you and you just got to make sure you hit every word. It's not easy.
I just cannot
Chris,
keep a game.
That felt natural for you, though. That felt natural for you.
No flubs. Speaking of storylines, though, I will add real quick. I think the storyline in Jacksonville will Bill Belichick be the head coach next year.
Yeah, he's going to be a coach next year.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Jets.
Oh man,
that would be poetry,
man. With his history with the Jets, he was at New York and then went to New England.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a whole.
He wants to win. He wants to win though, because if he comes back, he's gunning for the record. So he's not going to go somewhere where there's any chance he's not winning.
Yeah.
But that would be Jacksonville.
I'd just be curious if his style works anymore. I really am curious.
He's
right.
He's going to Dallas. He's going to Dallas. McCarthy's he's not going to be the guy. He's just out there like holding down.
I don't see Jerry giving him another contract either.
No, not at all. Yeah, and Dallas is so desperate for a ring. If there's anyone in the country that wants to win a Super Bowl badly, it's Dallas. So,
and they win.
I think they're like the Raiders, man. They need Jerry to pass. That's just my take. So I just, as much as I'm not wishing for that,
wishing death
we
don't have to promote that on this podcast, everyone. Let me just make that clear.
His NFL career to pass, not his life.
Phil is a man of faith. I trust.
Thank you.
Man.
Thank you for giving me the benefit of the doubt there. Um,
Let our viewers know.
we're gonna transition. And let's transition to the top 5 favorite TV shows. Chris, is that all right?
Reluctantly, I will be okay with that.
I just want everybody to know that we have Around the World of Sports is in our 5th year, and nobody wrote anything down, which makes me think.
Oh,
I have stuff written down.
yeah,
Which
we
makes
were
me
ready.
think.
Stuff written down.
We were ready.
Okay, well,
Hayden came prepared.
let's explore the world of sports next week. When it feels like we'll hit a couple of more sports,
What if
in this next 4 days.
How about a compromise here? Hayden's never got to experience Around the World of Sports. What if we give him the opportunity to try it out?
Yeah.
Okay, Hato, let's just give you the go here. You get the runway.
Okay. I got two. I'll be quick with them. November's coming up here in the next month. I know October just started, but we're flowing in here to the fall sports. College wrestling, NCAA Division I wrestling. It's very similar to like the regular season of baseball and basketball. It's kind of hard to follow along. It gets boring. I understand like watching, especially if you don't understand, which nobody understands. It's fine. But when you get into the NCAA tournament of college wrestling, it is exactly like the basketball tournament. It is win or you don't win. Like you're done. And these guys are, you want to talk about freak athletes. I mean, these guys are the most chiseled, athletic, flexible guys you will ever see, all the way from the 125-pound weight class all the way up to the heavyweight 285 plus. These heavyweights, these guys are 220, 280 pounds, are doing full splits on national television in huge moments that, and in wrestling too, like, unless you're a coach or you run some sort of academy after college, there's nothing. And everyone knows it. So these guys are dedicating their entire lives to knowing that their career is over at age 21, 22, 23 when they graduate high school or college. Like they genuinely have to pursue their major. Like these guys have to go get real jobs. And that is literally 90% of the athletic field in college wrestling. And they are some of the nicest, like, I can't emphasize enough, freak athletes that you will ever see. And if you get a chance in March to watch the finals of the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships, it is absolutely electric. It just gets better and better. Walk-up songs now. Like these guys, it is so cool to watch these guys that get no love whatsoever. And it's just cool to see small, also I do want to say the Big Ten dominates wrestling. So we should all give a little bit of love to the Big Ten and Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State. Minnesota. These guys are true history of the first Olympic sport, an OG original Olympic sport. I mean, that's the only chance that these guys have to shine after their collegiate careers, and I think it's something that really needs to get recognized.
How's Wisconsin?
About as good in wrestling as they are at football. Yeah, it's tough. It's crazy too, because there's a lot of successful Wisconsin high school wrestlers that don't go to Wisconsin, that don't even get recruited by Wisconsin, that get cherry picked by Penn State, who is an absolute powerhouse, and they get cherry picked by Ohio State, and just like New Jersey. New Jersey is the highest recruiting state in Division I like wrestling. New Jersey and Penn State, these two states, or Pennsylvania, these two states are absolutely dominant, and Wisconsin gets none of them, and it's kind of disappointing, but it's cool because you get to see these guys flourish at other places, and it's just cool to see the Wisconsin kids go be successful even outside of the state.
Pretty solid, right? Usually. feel like
I mean, the last 10 years it's been Penn State has absolutely been a powerhouse. Oklahoma State's traditionally really, really good, but just the Big Ten in general, I was always there. It's great. Carver Hawkeye Arena. If you're ever in Iowa City during wrestling season, go check out something in the bowl. It's pretty.
That was cool. Yeah,
Thanks.
I've like maybe watched part of a match one time, like when it's like in the nationals or like, when it's like bigger stage or a little bit in the Olympics.
It's hard.
You
It's hard to follow.
Yeah, when you hear like of wrestlers like, playing college football for a year or like getting, the really good ones, like rugby players too. Hey, come to camp, as a lineman of some kind. And so anyway, yeah, like you said, these guys are just athletes and
The WWE has actually been huge for college wrestlers or the UFC too. Like the UFC has accepted all these guys, Ben Askren, Johnny Hendricks, just like some guys who have been huge names in NCAA wrestling that have continued their Bo Nichols, probably the most recent one from Penn State. He was 2 or 3-time national champ, and he is finally emerging in the UFC. And these guys are brutal. I mean, don't mess with them ever. Like it's just like these guys are crazy. So it's pretty fun to watch.
Cool. Well, one of us will get a runway next week on our sport of choice. That was good, Hayden.
Thank you.
I think it's probably one of the best that we've had with that. I think
Pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Just
debut.
well researched.
Thank you.
Well, let's jump to our top 5 as we always end. Last week was top 5 beverages, which I think all of us loved. This week is top 5 favorite TV shows. And I think what we were talking about is this was a pretty difficult one. So how about you give us your 5 and then highlight one of them? Graham, you want to start us?
I get to go first. Yeah.
You do.
So I'll go 5 down. Band of Brothers. I had to put a general category in just for the comedy of our group here. Medical dramas. So think like we're currently looking at The Resident now. We think of House or Grey's Anatomy or way back in the day, a show called ER, Chicago Med, all that stuff. Medical dramas. So think of like, shows in hospitals. Shrinking, How I Met Your Mother, Ted Lasso. I think I've highlighted Shrinking before. It's a really funny one. It's new season's coming out. But recently we just watched the end of How I Met Your Mother. My wife and I did, and she didn't even remember some of these episodes. I think if you're just looking for shorter episodes to watch, episodes that generally make you feel good, give you comedy, always give you something to laugh at, always entertain, I really give a lot of credit to how they designed the show and just the plot development, the character development, how they wove different characters in and out of the seasons and tied it all together. It's difficult to keep a show running for so long and still make it feel good. I think some people critique that How I Met Your Mother maybe should have wrapped up a little sooner. That last couple seasons were, maybe stretched out too much. But overall, I give it a lot of credit as to how they developed it and put it all together, and I think held people's attention. And I think always just the kind of along the lines of like a more new age like Friends, where they just kept people laughing and entertained, and give you these like shorter episodes to follow, and being able to come up with new content. Like we think of like how we do a podcast, and just thinking of how you can keep a sitcom type show going for that long, and thinking of how characters develop in that, where it doesn't become dull or just too repetitive. And so give the show a lot of credit, and I think it's always an easy one, much like a Friends. You can just kind of pick it up at any point and just watch an episode, and it'll be really solid.
I'm never disappointed by Frem's list. I mean, just throwing in medical dramas, you just capture the whole gamut.
I kind of
just appreciate that.
I just like
right
put them all
Chinese takeout.
Takeout. I had to.
So TV shows is
So
interesting
good.
to me because I think of Hayden. I'm looking at him on my screen right now. When we were growing up, it was all movies. All we did was just watch movies. And then all of a sudden, like now, it's all shows. And shows are incredible. My list, 5-1, and I don't know if this is actually my 5-1, but it is tonight. 5, I Think You Should Leave by Tim Robinson. 4, Community. Came out around the same time as The Office and Parks and Recreation. Is an amazing NBC run that they had there. 3, Dexter. Dexter season 4 to me is the best season of any show of all time. If you haven't seen it, season 4 is incredible. 2, Ted Lasso. Got us through COVID. Got to believe through that. And number 1, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Thank you to Phil here for introducing me to that show. It's life-changing. Just finished the last season. I think this last year was the last season it came out. And it just never disappoints. Larry David's incredible. And I still don't love Seinfeld. I don't get it, but it's all Curb for me.
Same
So that's my
Talk
list for
ridiculous.
tonight. What's
Love
that?
me some Seinfeld. We should talk someday about that. I love me some Seinfeld.
I know. I think I just got to give it a real chance. I don't know if I've ever done that.
It definitely has a different cadence than Curb, you know? And,
Yeah,
and
it's
there
the
is
same-
something
it's the
about just
same but
Larry
different,
David
yeah.
being, the guy versus George or Jerry. What were you going to say, Hayden?
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's the exact same as Seinfeld, just Larry David's on camera.
Yeah. He is George Costanza.
Yeah, but
You know.
way better.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
way better, yeah. But yeah, I agree. I have. This is my right now too. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen the show Tacoma FD. So it's the guys who made Super Troopers
Broken
and Beer
Lizard
Fest,
guys. Yeah.
Broken Lizard guys.
Oh.
So they made a show. I think it was like originally on like FX or something. But it's a hilarious show about how they all play their role in Super Troopers, but it's they're firefighters, and it's absolutely hilarious. I think Yellowstone is absolutely fantastic. I think it got bad towards the end. The new season's about to come out. It's kind of got a little far-fetched for me, which I understand it's a TV drama. It's not real life. That's cool, but there also needs to be some sort of coped reality. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Talk about a show where you don't need to watch in order to Frem's point there. Like, pick it up at any episode at all, and holy cow, you're gonna lose your shit. It's pretty good. Sorry for cussing. It's my bad. I will go Curb Your Enthusiasm as well. That show is absolutely fantastic. It's just, if you watch Seinfeld, if you didn't watch Seinfeld, but if you did, it's even more just, it just brings it all to fruition. It brings it all to life, and it's absolutely fantastic. And then I will say Peaky Blinders. If you like action dramas, it's a little bit slow, and it takes a little bit to pick up, and once you figure out their dialect on how they speak and the slang that they use, one of the greatest action-packed dramas I've ever seen, and just a really, really cool storyline about back in the day. And if you've never checked it out, check it out and give it its flowers, because it's fantastic.
Hayden, can you give me like a 30-second overview of what that show is?
Peaky Blinders?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like a old, like, World War One, maybe. Like, it's a guy who comes back from war with his family, and they're a gang throughout Europe, and they just slowly rise in the ranks of, like, they overtake like Winston Churchill, and they overtake a bunch of these crazy European gangs, and they just become like the overseers of mischief and bad stuff in Europe. It's really cool. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I don't know if that was a good description or not, but
I just have never heard of it. I feel like I'm missing something here.
It's really good.
You are missing it.
I've heard about it before. I've always wanted to get into it because it sounds so good. I've heard such good reviews about it. So yeah, I love that you brought it up, Hayo.
Yeah, they're like gypsies, kind of. it's like a misfit gypsy family that rises the ranks in the gang world and becomes the ultimate overlords of European gangs. Pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Really
that
good,
sounds
really
fun.
good acting. That's yeah.
Cillian Murphy is
Yep.
the main character, and he is
Oh.
fantastic.
I think it's
Yeah,
even
he's a good
Killian.
actor.
It's Killian,
Mhm.
yeah, Irish. Yeah, it's really good.
Hey, well, before my top five to end it, I just want to give a word to our sponsor here. Ready to settle the debate on what's truly the best? Introducing Favorites, your go-to source for the ultimate rankings of anything and everything. From movies and TV shows to music artists and beyond, we survey real people just like you to uncover their favorites and compile the most comprehensive lists out there. Our rankings are trusted by companies like Billboard, Trustpilot, and more. Favorites, where everyone has a favorite and every favorite. Thank you, Favorites.
Love
You guys
favorites.
My final top
Very
five.
good at ad reads. You guys are dynamite at ad reads. It's incredible.
My top five here. Number 5, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, featuring Andy Samberg. Number 4, Alias, young Jennifer Garner. That is J.J. Abrams' second show after Felicity, but first thriller / spy. Number 3, Game of Thrones, the J.J.R. Martin classic that HBO crushed. Besides really the last 2 seasons, there's reasons for that. That's okay. Number 2, Breaking Bad.
Amazing.
Some people consider this the best show of all time. Has anybody not seen it here?
I have not seen it from front to end. I have not
Correct.
watched
I'm
it
with Aiden, yeah.
continuous.
I've not seen
I
it.
think
That's one that's worth it.
Yeah, I think it is the best show of all time, like start to end.
In the first 1 or 2 seasons, it's interesting because it's almost like they're building into it. And like, I don't know, it's almost like the production isn't as good because it wasn't as big of a show yet, if that makes any sense. And then it just takes off, man. It's crazy.
Cranston.
Yeah. Malcolm in the Middle. And then for me, my number 1 is Lost. And it's really, I've seen it 3 times through or 4 times. The storylines are just insanely good. And I think all the characters have just the complexity of being a human. I think it shows that really well. I do want to highlight Alias though. This came out in like 2003. And man, if you want just like an awesome show with really cool music, really good storyline that has kind of like a futuresque kind of feel to it, and is, I don't know, Jennifer Garner just crushes it. That's Bradley Cooper's first show. So before Bradley Cooper became a big movie star, he was in Alias. And J.J. Abrams is such a good storyteller. So if you want to go back to an older show that I think is a little bit under the radar, like some people were pretty into it back in the day. I think it got a lot of play. It was on ABC originally. If you also just like kind of like, it's not apocalyptic, but it just has like kind of like sci-fi overtones. It's pretty cool. So I feel like a lot of people know like workplace dramas like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or kind of these classic thriller shows, but like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. But Alias, man, it hits in a different way than I think those other shows do for me sometimes.
Alias was a show that my family literally, we would like be like, hey, Alias is on at this time. We're working our life around seeing Alias.
Yeah.
Like it was a sit down must see or not live, but like scheduled programming television when I was a kid, and it was really cool.
I kind of miss that. Like the anticipation of like a show coming up.
You had to sit down. Had to be
I
ready.
like that you say that. I like that you say that because Curb stuck to that through the end. It was released every Sunday at 10 p.m. And I just feel like that's a Larry David thing. It's like, I'm not binge releasing this. I'm going to make you wait for it.
And you enjoy it more when you
was
do
the
that.
Same.
Yeah, the anticipation's, I mean, it's part of the thrill, right? Like,
yes.
It's like
the younger generation wouldn't
what's
understand.
Gonna happen? Of course.
Sprinting.
I also think we are missing big time on like two huge shows with just The Simpsons. I mean, nobody said anything animated, but The Simpsons is what the longest running television show ever. Like,
Yeah.
and their clips and callbacks are absolutely insane when you go back on YouTube and look about like Simpsons conspiracies is pretty wild.
It's like Matt Groening, man. Just sees the future.
Yeah, and that was like a taboo show when I was a kid. It was like, you know, kids can't watch Simpsons, but whenever my mom was gone, my dad was like, "We're watching The Simpsons."
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was good.
And now in retrospect, it's actually like a fairly clean show. Like it's actually not that crazy. You know?
I mean, think about like, back in the day, like you had to be like, there were guidelines you had to stick to be on national television, and they hit every single one. Like, sure, they hit some innuendos all the time and played with the line, but it was still technically a family friendly show.
Shout out to Scott Silvers, by the way.
Scotty. Oh God. Guy's a legend.
I love it. Hey, well, thanks for supporting the show. You can check us out on X /Twitter, if you still call it that. Thank you, Elon. We're also on Instagram. Is that right, Chris? Or we're not on Instagram?
We're getting there, but we got some shout outs this last week.
Yeah? Any notable names there?
And that Wisconsin couple.
Yeah, a little Instagram social media page I like to call That Wisconsin Couple. Yeah, we gave you guys a sweet little shout out. It was awesome.
Love that.
Talked about it on the Instagram stories. Feel like it generate a little bit of buzz. We might get a few straggling sports fans in here.
And some more sponsors. Could definitely use some more sponsors.
Sure.
Hey, well, thank you for listening. And check us out on those platforms. Also check out That Wisconsin Couple. That's Hayden and his wife that do that. And you guys do that weekly, monthly? Just whenever you go somewhere?
Every Thursday, our podcast comes out on the road with That Wisconsin Couple. And then we just post all through the week on social media. So check us out there.
Awesome.
Check out the website as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Go Pack Go. Should be a good game. We're out.